The zebu, its slender body surmounted by its hump, makes it an animal adapted to extreme heat. Man has learned to tame its wild ancestor, to transform it into this long-term companion, well-suited for great migrations. Having set off alongside us to conquer arid zones around the world, the zebu shows us that its adaptability is almost limitless. $18 million years ago, a small, discreet, and solitary mammal lived in the forests of Eurasia. From Europe to present-day Pakistan, he liked to graze in damp glades and marshes on the edge of the woods. The animal looked much like the smallest antelopes of today. This many-horned beast is called Eotragus. It is the common ancestor of a now famous family, the Bovidae. The populations of this mysterious creature evolved over time to adapt to the different natural environments of the world. 5 to 10 million years ago, they gave birth to 20 species, including the powerful auroch. Man chose some to domesticate them and then linked his destiny to this incredible animal family. This is how zebu, yak, water buffalo, and ox were born. The Thar, to the east of Rajasthan, India, is an immense desert of over 77,000 square miles. Here, all year round, with the exception of the rainy season, everything is roasted by the sun. Few animals and plants manage to live in this poor and sandy environment. To survive, men and herds must survey it daily in search of the slightest tuft of grass. The Marwari, members of an ancient tribe that became a caste of herders, have retained a way of life adapted to the desert. Govardhan is one of them. His animals are Rathi Zebus, a proud cattle with a coat varying from white to black-brown, sometimes spotted or uniformly fiery red. They have loose skin, sharp bumps, and small raised horns.
We've been linked to Zebus for a long time. This bond has persisted from generation to generation for hundreds of years. We raise them like our own children, and in return, they take care of us.
For Govardhan, accompanying his animals in search of food is ensuring the survival of his own family.
Raising Zebus is very important. It's our livelihood. We feed them, and they give us milk. And thanks to the milk, we earn our living. We need each other to survive, so we will stay linked in the future. I breed Rathi Zebus because they don't feel the heat very much. They can survive in sand dunes. They can endure the harsh sun. They don't need a lot of water or medicine. They don't eat what is bad for them, and therefore they don't get sick. The names of my Zebus are Beautiful, Silk, Villager, Butter, and Red. The female Zebu, Red, is my favorite. She gives the most milk, and that's why I love her.
The morphology of the animal testifies to this adaptation to heat, drought, and frequent food shortages in these austere living conditions. The fatty hump is the first asset of the bovid. Like the dromedary, This reserve of fat, a source of energy, allows it to survive in hostile lands. The folds of the skin present under the throat and the belly also offer the animal the capacity to thermoregulate its organism. By increasing the area of its body in contact with air and flapping its long ears and folds of skin, the animal cools itself off as elephants do. Every evening, Govardhan brings his animals home to the village of Kalasar, where his wife and all his family await him. On these desert lands, it is very difficult for these herder farmers to make a living from their harvest, and this year promises once again to be very lean. Fortunately, the Marwari can count on the Zebu. The animal provides them with everything, starting with the 5 mainstay products of Indian daily life: milk, butter, ghee or clarified butter, urine, and dung. The Zebu is a family affair. Gita, wife of Govardhan and farmer, is the pillar. Our whole family gathers around the Zebu to work. We wash the Zebus together, do the milking, prepare the fodder and feed. We do it all together. We need to. How else would the work get done? One man cannot do it alone. The whole family has to do it. What can one man do alone? Here, its meat is not eaten. But for the rest, everything is good when it comes to the Zebu, starting with products made from milk. But also its dung, which once dried in the form of cakes, is used as fuel for cooking in the chula, the external cooking oven. Countless virtues are also attributed to its urine. It is used in particular to produce medicines, fertilizers, and even contains gold. This dependence on the Zebu reinforces the sacredness of the animal. It is pampered and revered. Yes, the Zebu is like a god to me. We pray to the Zebu. The Zebu is our mother. Of course, we are protected. We reap the benefits of our prayers. Loving the Zebu is a virtue. We survive thanks to the Zebus. What would we have done without the Zebus? Some 250 miles northeast of Rajasthan, the state of Haryana, also called Granary of India, owes the fertility of its soil to one of the largest rivers in Asia, the Indus. Its valley, like that of the Nile in Africa, was the cradle of a unique civilization, the Harappan civilization. From the Neolithic to the Bronze Age, it was the origin of major technical and agricultural advances, including the domestication of the Zebu. Domesticated here 9,000 years ago, the Zebu is now ubiquitous throughout the Indian subcontinent. Its ancestors belong to a variety of aurochs now extinct. The Indian auroch, a wild bovine of high stature, sometimes represented in cave art, which died out around 1800 BC. The city of Rakhigarhi covers an exceptional archaeological site dating from the Harappan period. And it is thanks to discoveries made on the various excavation sites that the use of the Zebu in agriculture has been brought to light. Buried in the tumuli of sedimentary layers accumulated over thousands of years, we still find many vestiges of this unique history today. In the heart of the city, the archaeologist Vasant Shinde searches for traces of the singular relationship between Zebu and man.
We know that during the Stone Age, when men were hunter-gatherers and not yet practicing agriculture, they killed wild zebus to eat them. It's the traces of cuts on the bones that allow us to know that they were slaughtered. Then people settled down, made temporary camps in the areas where this wild zebu lived. It's this same animal that has been domesticated, while the hunter-gatherer people transformed into an agricultural community. This domestication was certainly facilitated as people already knew the wild zebu. And then from the beginnings of sedentary life until the beginning of Harappan civilization, we have noticed during the time that this animal plays an important role in their food, their agriculture, their transport system. The zebu is considered an important pillar of the first agrarian societies. From the archaeological data, we can clearly understand that the zebu was used to cultivate the land. Zoo archaeologists who have studied zebu bones have shown that these animals were used for plowing or pulling carts, because some of the leg bones became fused together.
The skeleton of ungulates used in fieldwork undergoes rapid changes during the first centuries of their domestication. For example, over generations, the bones of the phalanges come together to form one strong single piece, better withstanding the pressure of pulled or carried loads that weigh on their bodies. For the archaeologist, the farmers of the village play an essential role in his research.
So the impression that we are getting here, the impression we have here is that there has been no change in the way of life for 5,000 years.
For the last 5,000 years. And
in general, when we walk in the village, sometimes we have the impression of walking through a Harappan village, and people can immediately connect with the past.
Connect themselves to the past. It is very fascinating.
It is very fascinating to see that even today, people still keep the zebu close to them.
The animal zebu, in fact, in their vicinity.
When we seek to understand the lives of these peoples, we cannot really separate the lives of these people from the zebus.
When we come for the excavation,
when we do excavations and we hire the locals to help us, some days we find elements, evidence that we cannot interpret correctly. But these villagers can immediately identify it. Oh, but that's the point. We still use this kind of object.
This type of elements or equipments.
It also occurs regularly that the villagers come across objects from the Harappan era.
So a lot of,
this pottery belongs to the Harappan culture, and it was certainly used to extract the milk for the local cheese, the paneer.
Cheese and paneer from the milk product.
The treasure of this villager is a set of zebu figurines over 3,000 years old, on which we find the emblematic hump of the animal.
They have, loved this animal.
The Harappans loved this animal. They worshipped it, and that is fascinating. And even as we enter the 21st century, this animal in South Asia still seems inseparable from human beings.
Inseparable from the human being, in fact, in South Asia.
With these strengths and the many advantages they provide to people, the Indian zebu quickly imposes itself beyond its land of origin. Thanks to its hump with exceptional powers, the zebu was able to cross the deserts of South Asia by our side before spreading westwards from the 3rd millennium BC. Trade between the Indus Valley and Mesopotamia contributed to spreading the Zebu population to the gates of Europe. This is why Zebu is found in certain breeds of Italian, Ukrainian, or Turkish cows. And it is undoubtedly by sea that these cattle reached the Horn of Africa, to then swarm across the whole continent. It is in Ethiopia, at the crossroads of these migratory paths in the Omo Valley, that the Zebu was most widely adopted 3 or 4 millennia ago. The peoples of the Great East African Rift were already domesticators and cultivators before the arrival of the Zebu. But if today their cattle are also made up of goats and sheep, the Zebu embodies a strong cultural dimension. The Zebu has alternately been an object of pride, of wealth, but also of rituals within the different ethnic groups of the region: Bana, Karo, Mursi, Hamar, and many others. The Bana breed their own race, shaped by successive crosses and which provide them with meat and milk. Each family has its own herd, recognizable by its markings. Led daily in search of pasture by the young guardians of the family, the precious humpbacks are corralled at night, not far from the men's huts. Because in the village, Zebus are at the heart of the life of the inhabitants.
We Bana, we build our house in the same place as our animals. Humans and cattle, we live together. And living by and for the cattle is a great joy for us. We tribes have only animals. We have no money. The city people know about banks, and they are educated about that, and that is why they have money. If we need a gun, we trade for it with beasts. In addition, in our culture, we give a dowry to the bride's family, and the Zebu is an important part of that dowry. We know the Zebu's name better than our own mother's name, and when we call them by name, they come up to us and bellow. If we lose our animals, we can easily find them by our mark on their skin and the gashes on their ears. If our animals leave the village and you ask someone if they have seen them, they will tell you if they have spotted your marking. This is why I like to mark the Zebus. They won't get lost. But we also do it for decorations and ceremonies.
Kutsa is a young herd keeper of the Bana people. He supervises the herd of his family, which counts about 60 heads. He must ensure that none of them go astray when he leads them to the most fertile areas of the Omo Valley. But at 17, Kutsa is old enough to marry and have his own herd. He is ready to become a man in the eyes of his community. For this, he will have to go through the ukili, a rite that celebrates the passage from adolescence to adulthood. To conquer his new status, he will notably have to run across the backs of a dozen aligned Zebus without falling. Kutsa prepares for it in total solemnity.
My family and the community told me I was old enough to be able to do my Zebu bull leap. I can't wait. I must give them the cord of the invitation. This cord has as many knots as there are sunsets before the ceremony. This means if you have 10 knots, at the first sunset my guests cut a knot. The next night, another. I have 8 knots left, and every day you cut a knot at sunset. After you've cut each knot, the last one you cut means the next day is my jump day. Hello, everyone. These are the invitations. This one's for you. And this one's for you. I'm waiting for the big day of the Zebu bull jump. I'm ready to jump. For me, the big day is approaching. After the Zebu jump, what must I do?
You will shave your head. And you will not eat anything that is cultivated. It's forbidden. But you can eat meat, eat honey, and drink milk. You must not eat meat from wild animals.
No wild meat?
No, it is sacred. After your marriage, you can eat whatever you want. Kotsa, how will you do your jump?
I only have 2 days to finish my preparation. The day after tomorrow, I will make my jump.
Thursday is market day in Alduba. Families of different ethnicities in the region gather here. They sell or buy cattle, goats, sheep, and zebus of all sizes and colors. No animal will be lost or confused, thanks to the markings made on the animal's body. A crowd of men and animals thus converge on foot towards the outskirts of the village, where the farmer's sacred gathering is held every week. For the sake of the family herd and the entire clan, for which he will soon be responsible, Kotsa must learn to choose the best animals. His uncle's advice is invaluable to him.
This bull is big. It would be perfect for you. Can we breed with this bull?
Yes, of course.
What is its price?
It's 4,000 beer.
What do you mean 4,000 beer? Why are you asking me so much? Give me the real price. I'll give you 5 beer. Is this yours?
Yes, yes, this one too.
I'll hold it. Take the rope. His rope came undone. This bull is calm and kind. He's a good farm bull. This female had a baby a few days ago. She must have milk. She may interest us. The mark in her ear resembles that of our neighbor, but she's a little different. That's okay.
And that bull over there, what do you think?
He must be good for breeding, but he has a problem with his leg.
But Kotsa does not forget his imminent event, and this market is an opportunity for him to let it be known.
I brought the lines.
Ah, you brought invitations.
Yes, I did.
So you jump Friday.
Yes, on Friday. But tomorrow is the celebration. You should come.
You young men, this is the celebration you're waiting for?
As with many herding peoples around the world, the cattle market is also the ideal place to equip oneself with breeding equipment and supplies: ropes, knives, containers, traditional stools, and of course to find yourself among different ethnicities. Bana, Hama, Ari, and Semai meet here. The market lasts the entire day. On the fringes of the market atmosphere, the famous event awaited by all the Bana people is being prepared. The guests, family, and friends, who sometimes come from far away, arrive in the village the day before the ceremony to help with the preparations and start the celebrations. On the fire, coffee and sorghum wine are prepared to be shared with the guests. Women and men are dressed for the occasion in their finery and begin by gathering in the shade. The contents of the calabashes are offered to all. The palaver goes well, while the Zebus calmly observe the scene. The members of the Bana ethnic group thus maintain and renew the bonds between themselves. Because for those who have gone to live in the city, this ritual is also an opportunity to reconnect with their culture and their roots. Thanks to his Zebus, Kotsa will be able to continue his training and gain strength. The Bana, like other ethnic groups in the region, draw blood from their Zebus. This rite, symbol of the carnal blood between man and animal, is practiced after a poor harvest or to prepare for an event like the Ukuli.
Blood is an ancestral food, but sometimes it's also good to make the Zebu bleed to remove their disease. We only use the big Zebus for bleeding, not the skinny ones. You are not allowed to shoot your arrow at someone else's animal. It's forbidden to bleed someone else's Zebu. My brother and I can shoot our father's Zebu, though. You must be experienced in drinking the blood or eating the clumps of curdled blood. You have to be careful when taking Zebu blood. If you take too much blood from him, he will get sick. You have to choose the best animal to shoot at. After taking his blood, you can see in his eyes that he is falling asleep. But when they are used to it, they aren't hurt and don't keep any injuries.
The big day has arrived. The women dance and sing to celebrate the event. Adorned with jewels, their skin and hair coated with earth and zebu butter. The men are about to gather the Zebus, on whose back Kotsa will have to run without tripping. a significant number that he will discover when the moment comes.
I wonder if there will be many Zebus, and if I will succeed or not. Thinking about it makes me sick. My whole family is there. They know I grew up with these beasts. They want to see me jump several animals. I grew up with these Zebus. Why should I be afraid to fail? I know I will succeed, but my heart is pounding. My whole body is afraid. Come on, I can do it.
Kotsa is now a man. It is with a shaved head that he presents himself to his favorite Zebu, whose name he has now taken, Seliamba. He thus perpetuates the destiny linked between his people, the Bana, and their Zebus, a link which remains to this day deeply rooted in their traditions. Having become a Pan-African conqueror, the Indian Zebu is today present as far as Senegal, Namibia, or Madagascar. But his journey has taken him much further. Around 1860, it was imported to South America by boat. The European colonists, already present for 3 centuries and struggling to resettle their cattle, offered a new destiny for the humpbacked animal, which could resist heat, disease, parasites, and insects. Its success was immediate and resounding, and men have never ceased to improve adapting it to this new South American continent. With more than 180 million heads, it is here that the Zebu population has become the largest. In the rural state of Minas Gerais, in central Brazil, the Zebu has become the king of cattle. For several generations, its breeding has been practiced by large families on immense properties, and since its beginnings, aims to improve the breeds. Dairy or meat, now all at high yield, Zebus have become the emblem of veritable agricultural dynasties. As soon as they were imported in the 19th century, the history of Zebus was linked to that of men, determined to settle permanently on these lands. For their heirs, this pioneering period, now over, is a source of pride and nostalgia. Renato Miranda Caetano Borges is one of those triumphant descendants. Today a proud patriarch at the head of one of the most important estates in Brazil. All his life he has continued the work of selecting and disseminating the Zebu throughout Latin America.
I was raised on Zebu meat and milk. Since the first moments of my life, I've lived on the farm with my parents and shared in the Zebu breeding. We follow our animals from birth and throughout their growth. We can say that we are true Zebu breeders. There is a very strong bond between breeder and the herd, the farm, and the natural environment and the family environment. We owe it to ourselves to pass this gift on from generation to generation. I already have 2 sons who are veterinarians, and the whole family is involved. My grandsons come to spend the holidays with us. They come to the farm every day. All this is passed down from generation to generation. Traditionally, in our family, we are producers of the Gyr and Nalor breeds. But all Zebu breeds are fantastic. They have the same functional characteristics of hardiness, fertility, and good temperament. These are common to all. All Zebu breeds are important for breeding. The Zebu has a thin and resistant skin, which gives it a better defense against parasites. The structure of its reproductive system allows it to perform better in reproduction and also have a longer life. We have Zebus in all the states of Brazil. In the north, the northeast, south, center-west, in all the regions, all of Brazil's states have Zebu farms. And the Zebu adapt perfectly. It breeds well, it produces well, even in climates above 100 degrees or temperatures below 50 degrees. It is an extraordinary animal. Everything Zebu breeders have sought through breeding has been obtained. What the animal consumes as food has a very important influence on its milk and on its meat. In addition to being flavorful, it is very healthy. The consumer market demands more and more quality in our products. In meat production, the younger the animal, the better the quality of its meat. Here in Brazil, a lot of work has been done on these Zebu breeds by the breeders to improve meat production. Today, the world market for Brazilian beef is very developed, and it is certainly thanks to the breeds of Zebu.
Also improved over the generations, dairy breeds like the Gyr, with its rounded forehead, produce milk that is increasingly sought after by a growing dairy industry. Thanks to state-of-the-art genetics, the potential of breeding stock from farms like Renato's is analyzed to identify and select those whose DNA will bring the best qualities to future generations. Their frozen semen will pass on their genes to new generations of Zebus that are always more productive, more fertile, and more resistant.
We have animals that are used for semen production. Brazil has already exported a lot of germplasm to a lot of countries, mainly countries in Central America and South America.
The work of Brazilian geneticists has therefore made it possible to develop breeds at the pinnacle of their qualities, which are then exported all over the world. When you eat Brazilian meat, it's often zebu. But the exceptional success of this meat is unfortunately at the origin of a huge ecological tragedy. With the dizzying growth in the number of heads, entire sections of major ecosystems are disappearing. The Amazon rainforest is gradually being eaten away by the cultivation of soybeans, the principal food for the ever-increasing number of livestock on these large farms. To feed the entire Brazilian livestock led by Zebus, 116 million tons of industrial cereal feed are produced each year, and 148 million acres of forest are sacrificed. The largest primary forest in the world, thus suffering the torments of this race for productivity by large landowners, is also locally drained by more modest farmers in search of pasture and space to practice subsistence farming. Fortunately, the arrival of new practices gives hope for a return to reason. Thanks to them, man should not have to choose between breeding and the sustainability of the primary forest and its biodiversity. In Tufe, on the banks of the Amazon, the Mamirawa Institute is conducting field experiments with its pilot herd. It is trying to convince owners of small farms, like Otacílio, to adopt their technique.
I am passionate about zebu breeding. I'm happy because it's what I've always wanted to do since childhood. I studied and worked in other fields, but I always came back to raising cattle.
A veterinarian of strong convictions, Paula Arujo believes in zebu breeding that is more respectful of the environment. Paulo accompanies Otacílio, who has decided to change his practices in the middle of the equatorial forest. The devastation, the destruction of the environment is very real in Brazil. This is why here, the cattle, and particularly the zebu breeds, which have adapted well, are singled out. Traditionally, farmers are clearing areas for pasture. After a while, the ground produces less and the grass runs out. These same farmers then need to clear new grazing areas. To protect the forest, Paula suggests that modest producers adopt an ancient technique, rotation. It consists in dividing the same already existing plot into several alternately grazed areas. There are many advantages, giving grasses the resting time necessary for their regeneration, improving soil quality, and reducing ecological impact. Our practice helps to preserve and conserve living things that exist in the soil. Microorganisms, small animals, insects. They break down organic matter and structure the soil so that there is always life in the earth, and so the plants draw nutrients from it to develop well, and thus offer good food for animals. When the animals enter the plot, they first eat the best part of the grass, which is the upper part, the part at the top end of the leaf. This is the most important part nutritionally. We leave the zebus there just long enough to eat this upper part. Then we rotate them, and they move on to the next plot. With this simple process, we give the plants time to regenerate and thus make it possible to perpetuate their presence on the pasture.
The soil regenerates because during the time the animal was there, it left its urine and dung, which have been assimilated into the soil. To this we add the dung beetles by the thousands, and they help mix in the zebu droppings. The soil is constantly improving. There is no limit, and I see it with each passing year.
With this technique, and without needing to deforest more, the breeders keep the soil fertile, which produces quality food for the animals. It works well. The breeder is assured of a better yield, while preserving the natural environment. After having conquered the deserts, and more generally tropical zones on 3 continents, the zebu is now invited to an increasingly warmer Europe. The emerging interest is therefore not linked to its exoticism, exhibited until then in our zoos, but rather due to its adaptability. This is how we eventually find it in a rather unexpected setting, the Swiss plateau. The Swiss plateau, or Mittelland, stretches from the Jura to the Alps. With its altitude of 1,300 to over 1,900 feet, it is usually rather cool there, barely 45 to 48 degrees on average. Traditionally, Swiss cow breeds such as Simmental or European cows such as Limousin are raised there for their milk or meat. But rapid global warming, by nearly 36 degrees Fahrenheit more in a century, is affecting the abilities of these animals. And the resistant zebu is starting to attract the attention of some.
There are people who thought I was crazy and laughed behind my back. Those animals are not for Switzerland. You can't do anything with them. They're wild animals. This flame in my eyes does not come from nowhere. I really fell in love with these animals.
And it was in particular the abilities of the female zebu, the zebuette, that converted Hans Rudi.
The characteristics that make her special for me are that she calves very easily, and she's very fertile. Obviously very resistant, and she tolerates heat well, and she has very healthy calves.
Hans Rudi practices crossbreeding between female zebus of the Nellore breed and European bulls, but also between male zebus and traditional European cows. The 2 species, very close genetically, can reproduce with each other. The small calves born from these unions express the qualities of their 2 parents: docility, yield, hardiness, and resistance to heat and cold.
It's very special for me to do this crossbreeding. In recent years, I've had more success with births if they are from crossbreeding with a zebu. Since the zebu is a more primitive animal, the calves are much more resistant. As soon as they are born, they can already walk. I want this because I don't like difficult births that require veterinary intervention. And the calves are very beautiful. If the calf can be born on its own in the pasture, I am 100% certain that the zebu is capable of giving birth to more calves. I have a guarantee that these calves are born alive on their own without any problems. This is the most important thing for me. Since then, I have rented my Zebu bulls to other breeders, and now I'm not regarded as so very original. I am proud to have been able to establish a new breed in Switzerland, even in Europe. According to my information, there are no other Nelore Zebus in Europe. When I started, global warming was not that important. But now I tell myself that I made the right decision.
Man has thus succeeded in making a desert animal prosper at the foot of mountains. So goes domestication, a cultural adventure and a bridge thrown between peoples and civilizations. But this 1,000-year-old process, if boiled down to a simple performance race tomorrow, could turn against us and sever the links between man and animal, so patiently woven over time. Faced with the challenges of tomorrow, isn't respecting this unique animal a way of restoring the precious link between man and nature in search of a balance between its preservation and our development?